welcome to the most excellent 80s movies podcast. It's the podcast where a filmmaker and a comedian cry their way through the 80s movies we think we love or might have missed with these, our modern grown up eyes, to see how they held up. And today we're talking about Beaches, a movie selection from 1989, about which Google says Hillary, played by Barbara Hershey, and Cece, played by Bette Midler, meet as children vacationing in Atlantic City, New Jersey, and remain friends throughout the decades. As Cece, a loud New Yorker, pursues a singing career, Hillary, a staid Californian, becomes a successful lawyer. Over the years, they often quarrel or compete, but as other relationships flourish and die, the two women are always there for each other, traveling from coast to coast through the most tumultuous times. Beaches. That's what we're talking about today.
Guys, it's finally here. The one you've been asking for years. We're going to get into it. Beaches.
We're going to get into it. I'm Krissy Lenz, one of the directors of the Neighborhood Comedy Theater in downtown Mesa, Arizona. And with me, as always, to break down these movies is our award-winning filmmaker, Mr. Birthday Man, Nathan Blackwell.
Thank you. Sir, Mr. Birthday Man, please. Thanks. Good to be here.
Beaches. I don't know why I felt so compelled to do this movie, and I felt so...
Yeah, me neither.
So, like, oh my God, we haven't done Beaches yet. To me, like, this feels like a quintessential movie of the 80s. Like, I watched it so much with my family.
It's kind of like on the poster of like 100 80s movies you have to see.
Yeah.
In your mind's eye.
Right. And the soundtrack is so iconic.
Mm-hmm.
I know that I've listened to the soundtrack over and over and over again with my family. I know all the songs by heart. But upon this watching, oh boy, is this even a movie?
Yeah, I have an interesting history with this movie.
I can't wait to hear
it. So, I would not say that as a teenager I was the demographic for this film, but it definitely got kind of pushed on me. I was in choir in 5th and 6th grade, or is it 7th and 8th grade?
Mm-hmm.
It's hard. Memories are hard. But I was in choir for like I was in choir. Was I in choir for 2 years or 4 years? Anyways, my middle school choir teacher, she looked like Bette Midler, but she was obsessed with Bette Midler as well, and we had to sing a number of Bette Midler songs, including this main theme, in class. Mm-hmm. And so that was kind of my introduction connection with this movie, and Bette Midler herself.
You had to sing "Wind Beneath My Wings"?
Yes. Yeah, it's interesting. It's like there's some songs that just become programmed into you. And a lot of them were just based off of whatever our choir teacher was into at the time. A lot of them were I don't know if this was her way of like connecting us with things coming out, but there was a lot of stuff like, you know, like the movie La Bamba with Lou Diamond Phillips had come out not long ago, and so we sang La Bamba, and these are movies that kids would not have watched anyway, so maybe it was just whatever she was into.
Yeah, she had all the power.
Right, exactly. So yeah, Wind Beneath My Wings.
I love it. I think my mom just loved this movie, and so that's why I had to watch it so much.
Yeah, this movie is, this is just me. This is like the female version of a bromance, whatever that's called.
I think it's just called a romance.
It's the love between two friends.
Yeah. and the time that it spans. So we start with Bette Midler, and she's at the Hollywood Bowl, and she's rehearsing a number. And this is when you realize that whenever Bette Midler sings, we're gonna have to hear the whole song from start to finish. We're not gonna get a little snippet of the song. We're gonna hear the whole song. We're gonna see
Yeah.
the whole performance.
But the premise is, I mean, the premise is framed pretty quickly. That Beaches is a story about an unlikely friendship between two women from childhood all the way to adulthood. She gets one of those calls where she drops everything. She's going to be having a big performance at the Hollywood Bowl or wherever that venue was.
Yeah, the
And
Hollywood Bowl.
and so there's that cloud looming over us the whole time of impending doom. And so because there's not a lot of inherent tension or let's say things that happen in the movie, that sort of like doom of knowing what's going, or that there's going to be bad news, probably death, gives us a little tension throughout the movie.
Yeah, we keep cutting back to Bette Midler, who is driving to San Francisco from LA because she couldn't get on a flight.
That's like a 10-hour drive.
Yeah, and she's like, as she's driving, she's remembering their life and friendship together and all of their ups and downs. But it's like you said, not a lot happens in the movie.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like we've seen plenty of like movies that kind of go down the winding path, you know. But the director of this is Gary Marshall, and he's a good captain at the wheel, you know.
Right, I agree.
And so it goes down smooth. I'll say that.
Okay. You loved it?
Let's not exaggerate. But it's confident. It's doing what it wants to do, even though not much happens. All right, continue.
And yet so much happens. The girls meet in Atlantic City and they're both like little girls, and Hillary is like a little prissy, uptight, a sheltered rich girl, and she's crying on the beach because she's lost. And she meets the bombastic, over the top Cece, who's a child actress. They basically kidnap this little girl for the space of an afternoon. They take her to an audition where Cece, who's Mayim Bialik,
Yeah, Mayim Bialik from
Blossom,
yeah.
And what's that show with Sheldon?
Oh, the one that is about nerds that nerds don't like.
Yeah, Big Bang Theory. And Celebrity Jeopardy, I guess.
Yeah, the number one TV show in the world. Yeah.
She sings a whole song that we listen to, and she loses the audition to a girl who walks on her hands. But we meet these, like, the loud girl and her mother. They kidnap the shy girl, and then they become instant friends. The shy girl tries to take them out for sodas. But Mayim Bialik doesn't fit in to the rich, ritzy hotel world.
Yeah, and she's doing a great, like, young Bette Midler impersonation or performance.
Yeah, she is doing great, and she's really full of life and personality. And they decide that they're going to become pen pals.
Yes.
So then we get our first letters montage, where we see the girls growing up and going to college.
Yeah, 10 years flash by
as they write letters back and forth.
If only the rest of the movie flew by so quickly.
But Cece's in New York working at a blues club. We hear a whole song and see a whole performance once again.
All right, so I have an important clarification to make.
Okay.
The drive from Los Angeles to San Francisco is more like 6 hours than 10 hours.
Oh, okay. It's still a long drive.
And it was raining, and so she should have taken at least like 7, 8 hours, I
Yeah,
think.
she should have been going at a reasonable pace. She probably wasn't because she's worried about her friend.
Yeah, and I mean, if you make a couple of stops, it could become 10 hours. I'm not saying it shouldn't be. All right, continue.
Okay. I'll write you a letter about it. Um so Hillary comes to visit and says she walked out on her life and now she's broke and she's going to stay with Cece and they're going to be like two girls out about town together. And this is really the longest time they spend together while they live together in New York. Bette Midler goes on a singing telegram mission and she meets the dad from Home Alone,
Yes.
who becomes a huge part of the movie because she sort of falls in love with him on the spot. He's the director of a group called the Falcon Players, and he
Mm-hmm.
wants Bette Midler to come be a part of their little cadre of actors.
Yeah, he's kind of an avant-garde theater director, but he's very even keel. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I wouldn't say. Well, I mean, you could say that he's very like white bread, boring, but he is effectively satisfied with where his life is.
Yeah.
And Bette Midler is always unsatisfied. She always wants more.
Okay. So Bette Midler starts getting bit parts at the Falcon Players. Meanwhile, Hillary is a lawyer for the ACLU who's like fighting the good fight. And they're living together and having a fun time being poor. Finally, she gets a big part in a musical at the Falcon Players. We see an entire musical number. Oh, industry, whatever will become of me? We see
So
the whole dance.
effective. Yeah.
So effective. We're at the party hearing the reviews. They're positive reviews,
Right.
but
They praise the accuracy of the props.
and the effectiveness of the masks. Um but it's good reviews, so it's a night to celebrate. However, John Hurd, aka the dad from Home Alone, is going off with Hillary and giving attention to Hillary instead of Cece. So Cece goes out and gets plastered.
Yeah.
They come back and have a little confrontation. Hillary slept with John, the director. Cece is jealous, but Cece and Hillary have to sort of essentially break up because Hillary has to go back to San Francisco and take care of her dad.
Yeah.
It's letters again.
It's great.
Letters, letters, letters. Montage, montage, montage.
Full song.
Full song. In the absence of Hillary, John Hurd and Bette Midler start to date. Hillary gets married to a lawyer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, none of I don't feel like any of the relationships or romances really there was no chemistry.
Yeah, I agree.
None of them.
There wasn't really a passionate feeling between Cece and John. And you did get the feeling that, like, she was sort of a default.
Mm-hmm.
But Hillary went and married someone else. So what are you going to do?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Cece and John get married at a justice of the peace. And in real time, we get flashback to real time. Cece gets pulled over in her car on the way to go be
Yeah.
with Hillary, we are assuming.
During her 6 to 10 hour drive.
Yep. In the past, Hillary goes to see Cece in a play. Once again, we see a whole song, a whole entire song, which is about the invention of bras.
Mm. Yeah, it's kind of like a fun, like over the like Gonzo boudoir kind of cheeky whatever performance.
The hit line at the end is, "The result of this swindle is pointedly clear. Do you buy a titsling or do you buy a brassiere?" If you think I don't know that song in its entirety, you're wrong. I found that song hilarious when I was a kid and listened to it all the time. We hear and see the whole song. So Hillary is visiting with her husband. John and Cece live in a fancy apartment now. They have a huge Great Dane. And they just have like all of this like really fancy 80s rich person stuff. Which, like, would you get that rich only having one hit on Broadway?
Well, is that what they're saying, that that's their first hit or it's their current hit?
I don't know. It seemed like they were talking about being in the play Sizzle, and then Sizzle was a hit.
Right. I suppose that would be bad financial planning.
Yeah. Well, we get the idea that she's not much of a spendthrift.
Right.
So they have this long visit. They play cards together. They play cards together every time they visit. And they seem sort of mad at each other.
Mm-hmm.
They go shopping together. They both want babies. And then they have a big fight over who's more jealous of the other.
Oh, girls.
Oh, girls. Hillary cries in the airplane bathroom. Cece cries to John. And in the future, Cece is driving. In the past, Cece sends letters and Hillary ignores them. What? This is the biggest rift in their friendship because Hillary just sends the letters back and doesn't read them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess one of the problems, like, Bette Midler is both the most charming person in the movie and the most talented person in the movie, with her singing. But her character is kind of a black hole of attention. Like, she
Yeah.
needs that attention. She needs more and more and more. And sometimes, as an audience member, that's very grating.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
tough to take. I don't know if I'm more sensitive to that. But the kind of people who need to be at the center of attention is I mean it's intentional. I mean, even
Right.
the Home Alone dad says, like, I'm exhausted. Like, her own mom says, I'm exhausted. You
Yeah.
know,
That's why she left to go to live in Miami.
yeah, and as an audience member, it can be exhausting.
Yeah, especially when you have to listen to the whole song every time she opens her mouth to sing.
Warm memories coming back to you.
Yeah. So the relationship between John and Cece breaks up. She at first leaves him because he's not paying enough attention to her, as we just said, and then he eventually leaves her because he's like, "This look, you want more and more and more, and I just want to be here at the Falcon Players. Like I'm cool, I'm chill, I've got what I want, and you want to keep going and striving and reaching and climbing, so you go do it." And we just won't be together. Meanwhile, Hillary is having a romantic rendezvous with her husband at the beach house, but she comes home from the beach house and finds her husband breakfasting with another woman.
Ugh,
What?
that was my breakfast.
That was my breakfast. That was my robe. Um, and the husband is like unapologetically like, "Yep, this is my actual wife."
Yeah, she married a Vulcan. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's the most boring love interest I think I've ever seen in a movie.
Yeah, there's nothing there to him.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really hard to feel sad when he breaks up with Hillary because it's
Right,
like, well,
exactly.
who
It's
is
like,
this
you're off
guy?
the hook, girl.
Yeah. So Cece gets kicked off a movie set for being a bitch.
Mm-hmm.
Her career is in the toilet. Hillary goes to see her at a club and they fight, but they make up because Hillary is now pregnant.
Yes.
And
Yeah, she
they,
was. She was. Bette Midler was just so mean to her, and they were, and she was not going to forgive her. The fight was going to be bad, and it just completely turns around, um, on a dime. But I mean, understandably, that
yeah,
she's
she's
pregnant.
like, "You got fat," and she's like, "I'm
Yeah.
not fat, I'm pregnant."
Uh-huh. Because I mean, I guess to counterpoint my own um bad asides, you realize that the things are so petty that you fight
Mm-hmm.
over.
Right.
Um and I guess maybe that's, I mean, I feel like, that most of the things that happen in this movie, other than, death and people divorcing, are pretty small.
Yeah.
Um
But they're like life, most things in
exactly.
life are pretty small.
Exactly. This movie, for the people who love it, is kind of a warm blanket. You
Yeah.
know, it doesn't need to have these hard left turns or like big dramatic moments where they betray each other. It's more about life and the journey of life.
Yeah. And the little ups and downs along the way.
Right.
So they decide they're going to do this pregnancy thing together. They have a getting ready for the baby montage. It's really cute. Cece meets Hillary's doctor and immediately is like, "I would leave my career for love. I would leave my career for marriage." We don't believe her, but she gets engaged to
No.
this doctor anyway.
Yeah. Spalding Gray.
Yeah.
Um yeah. So a very she tries to transform herself into the doctor's wife. And we know it's not going to work.
Yeah. And it doesn't last very long. Like before they're engaged for more than half a minute, she's off to go do an audition.
Yeah,
It turns out she's auditioning for John to do another play at the Falcon Players.
she really did him dirty. She just left.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah.
But all of this happens in such a whirlwind because the next thing we know, the baby is coming, which should only take 10 months, right? So the baby is coming. And Cece goes and sees the doctor again, and she's like, "Oh, I hear you're engaged." It's like,
Uh-huh.
wow, he moves fast.
Uh-huh.
But the baby is born, and immediately the daughter is older. Her name is Cecilia, but they also call her Victoria.
Mm.
Cece is successfully doing albums now. Hillary has trouble with the daughter because she's always so tired. She's very, very tired. And the daughter's like, "You're always tired." So she's sweaty and clammy, and we get the feeling something is wrong here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she has the Steel Magnolias disease or whatever,
Yep.
right? Um yeah, and it's funny because the daughter is almost kind of a clone of Bette Midler.
Yeah, she's cute. But she's big energy and she wants to play and she wants the mom to be there with her. And the mom just doesn't have the energy because she's got a heart condition, a terrible, tragic heart condition.
Mm-hmm. Terrible, tragic movie death disease.
Yes. She's waiting for a donor heart, but in the meantime, she's not going to treat it aggressively. She's just going to do medication and rest. So, Cece is going to go stay at the beach house with Hillary and Victoria. Victoria and Cece fight a lot. They don't get along at first. Hillary gets sicker and sicker. She won't talk to her friends. She's sad that eventually Victoria and Cece get along together and go and play and dance around on the beach, and she can't go with them. So we have a little jealousy thing again.
She's consumed with rage on her deathbed.
Yep. Hillary comes out and tries to be more present. She's like, "I'm going to be trying to be more present until I die." Victoria is going to go visit Cece in LA, and this is when Hillary collapses. Now we're connecting the now with the then because Cece is pulling up to the hospital and Hillary is like, I waited for you. I want
I
you to
waited
take me
10 hours
home.
for you to
Yes, I
drive.
waited to die. They go to the beach house.
Beaches. It returns.
It does return. We hear all of Wind Beneath My Wings.
Uh-huh.
There's a funeral. Cece reads all the letters that she sent back and forth with Hillary. Cece decides to take care of Victoria. You can come and live with me. They move out of the house. Cece's finally doing her big Hollywood concert. She sings slowly the story of love. That's the story of, that's the glory of love. The little girl, they show her just watching in rapt attention, but I think this would be so boring for like a 10-year-old.
Yes, I think that we had to sing that song in choir as well. So that's how much she was into this movie.
She loved this movie. She loved this movie, but that's the end of the movie is that Bette Midler and the little girl walk out as she's telling her the story of Cece and Victoria.
Yes.
Or Cece and Hillary, sorry. And that's the movie Beaches. Like we said, not a lot happens. And yet a lifetime happens. And I think my memory of this movie is
Mm-hmm.
more fond to me than the actual movie itself. But I have to say, Dorian and Rocket both watched this whole movie with me.
Hmm.
They were like, "Oh, what's this? What are you watching?" I'm like, "Beaches." And they're like, "Okay." And they sat down and watched the whole movie with me and didn't complain.
Wow. So they're full converts now. They're beachheads.
Yeah. They're beachites. They're
Uh-huh.
beaches.
So
They're
we're
beaches
so
bitches.
so we're the ones who are wrong then.
I guess so. Um
I knew it.
yeah, I didn't not like the movie, but I didn't cry. Dorian cried.
No, no. Yeah. I think um
I was
yeah.
fully expecting to cry.
Well, we could be jaded and have dark hearts. That would explain a lot.
Well, I cried at Steel Magnolias,
Yeah, I think I did too.
but not at beaches.
No. Well, yeah, yeah. It's tough. It depends on the mood. I mean, we've seen this before, or I think I've seen it before. Um. So, how on a scale of 1 to 10 beaches,
1 beach to 10 beaches.
how do you feel about this movie called Beaches from 1988? How has it held up? How has it changed in your perception? What do you give? How many beaches?
I want to give it more than 5,
Mm-hmm.
even though I feel like it was just fine. I
Right.
still want to acknowledge the impact it had on me as a kid.
Right.
And I want to give it 6 beaches.
Okay.
I'll give it 6 beaches. I think it holds up in terms of being emotionally impactful and a nice story about 2 female friends and their journey together. But I don't think it's that special.
Right. I don't want to rain on anyone's beach
Beach.
parade
Yeah.
or their proverbial performance at the Hollywood Bowl.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
Um I totally get that some people love this. It's just not my jam or where I was at the moment.
Yeah.
Um
And you have to wonder how long would this movie be if they didn't have an entire soundtrack worth of songs.
yeah, I felt like it could have been shorter. But at the
Mhm.
same time, like I said, like with Gary Marshall at the helm, it went down smooth despite the fact that I was not always engaged.
Right.
You know. And then also let us, if we're going to pad out the episode, let's discuss just the subjectivity of rating movies. Isn't that ridiculous? Like,
We don't
it's
have to pad out. It's okay to have one short episode. It's not that.
like like a 6 out of 10. If you like divided that in two, and it's like, okay, that's a rating. Like a 6 out of 10 is like a 60%, which is like a D, right? But in reality, like if you divide that in half, like a 3 out of 5 is really kind of a median in the middle rating, like an
Yeah.
average C. It's like a more like a C, you know?
That's what I think is like it's average. It's like
Yes. So I would give like a 6, like an average. That's an average rating, you know? Like a
mhm.
7 is good, an 8 is yeah, up to 9. Like an 8 is great, and then
Yeah.
9 and 10 are like classic and perfect, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh-huh.
So I'm gonna give this movie a 5.
Okay. Okay.
And
Yeah.
honestly, that was just my you know, that just my reaction of my that was my experience, um you know, of rewatching this film, that it didn't, you know, I wasn't as gauged as I wish I was,
Yeah.
and yeah, I didn't weep and cry, but to each their own.
Maybe it's because you were watching it too early in the morning.
Yeah, I didn't have a glass of wine.
You didn't have your best gal pal there with you.
Exactly. So maybe that's my fault.
Maybe. What about a deep cut recommendation? I actually have two, even though one of them shouldn't count.
Okay, good. That's how I usually roll.
Okay.
Um, so mine is what I was got to thinking is like, so what I wanted to look for my deep cut recommendation was kind of a bro version of a lifelong friendship, or a, you know, a bro romance, shall we say.
Okay.
And so the movie I came up with, I'm pretty satisfied with. So where beaches had, you know, relationships being there for each other through divorces and weddings and childbirth and ups and downs and things like that. This movie has CGI tigers and grenade arrows and fighting hundreds of men by yourself.
Okay.
I'm of course talking about the pinnacle of the bromance, which is the movie RRR. The fantastic Indian Tollywood action film, which you, if you haven't seen it,
I
um,
haven't.
then you're a terrible person, and
Oh,
you've
I'm
got
a
to.
terrible person.
Sorry for the bad news. Yeah, so if you want to see a movie that's even longer, but is just about as much about love, um, friendship love, then RRR is your ticket to finally being happy.
Okay, that is a staunch recommendation.
Yeah,
I will have to.
it's, I would say it's also like the pinnacle of over the top action movie, you know.
I love that.
Yeah, so those who know, they know, and those who haven't seen, it is available on Netflix. Although interestingly, it's dubbed in Netflix. It's even the foreign language subtitle version. It's dubbed because it's not Hindi, it's Telugu.
Mhm.
Tollywood is really giving Bollywood a run for its money.
Mm.
You know, like Bollywood is like the high budget, but Tollywood is like the scrappier, crazier, like we're gonna crank it up to 120% version, you know. And so the one on Netflix is actually dubbed
Okay.
in Hindi. But yeah, I say go for it. Don't let that stop you.
I won't.
Yeah, I mean, just watch the trailer and you go, you'll. It's like I am all in on this. This is insane.
Okay. And that's your recommendation for beaches.
Yes, RRR.
Okay. So I have two, and like I said, one of them shouldn't count. I just noticed as I was looking through Barbara Hershey's IMDb that in like 2003 she played Anne Rule in The Stranger Beside Me, a TV movie version of The Stranger Beside Me.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't seen it, but I'm into that.
Okay, good.
I would want to see Barbara Hershey play Anne Rule in The Stranger Beside Me. I haven't seen it, so I can't really recommend it. It doesn't really count. But I just wanted to mention it as an honorable recommendation.
Okay, good.
And my real recommendation is the 1989, the same year as Beaches comes out. Bette Midler will go on to star with one of my favorites, Shelley Long, in another friendship piece that's perhaps
Mm.
more comedic, Outrageous Fortune.
That's been a while.
Maybe we should do that one next.
Let's do it right now. Hang on,
Yeah.
listeners.
Hang on for 2 hours while we find and watch Outrageous Fortune. But I love Bette Midler and Shelley Long together. I love Shelley Long in anything.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
she's
it's
great.
if you want to see a funny version of Beaches where it's like two unlikely friends, one's uptight and stuck up, and one is bombastic and out of the box. Then check out Outrageous Fortune from the same year as Beaches.
Actually, it wasn't Beaches 88.
I thought it came out in 89.
Hmm. Yeah, my memory back then is so bad. Who knows?
Let's see what Google says.
Let's Google to pad out the episode. Okay, hang on.
We're padding out the episode. I think there's conflicting information. It says both 1988 and 1989.
It's possible it didn't. You know. Yeah.
It says 1988 on Google, but then it says it came out in January of 1989.
It's possible they finished it in 88 and it was released in 89.
Yeah, because it came out in January.
Okay. Yeah, maybe it had its like maybe it had a limited run.
So it could make it for. It was nominated for 1 Oscar for Best Original Song for Wind Beneath My Wings.
Okay, that's understandable.
Yeah. So Nathan, where can people find your beloved filmmaking sauce?
Well, if you're looking for Nathan's beloved filmmaking sauce, please visit squishystudios.com. We're getting ready to release our feature film, The Last Movie Ever Made. And
Yay.
so the news of when that comes out will probably be pretty soon. So you can check out squishystudios.com. Honestly, for The Last Movie Ever Made, if you check out our Instagram or Facebook, you'll probably get that information sooner. But yeah, that's the website is basically where everything ends up eventually.
Excellent. And look for Nathan's remake of Beaches coming soon.
Mm-hmm.
You can find me at the Neighborhood Comedy Theater in downtown Mesa, Arizona, every Friday and Saturday night, every Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night, doing the comedy, entertaining you, and it's various hilarious. That's unintentional rhyme. Undertakings. Also, if you're here with us at the end of the episode, please consider becoming a member. It's just $5 a month. You get episodes a week early, and of course, always ad free. You can go on the Discord and interact with not only the Most Excellent 80s Movies podcast, but all the other podcasts on the True Story FM Discord. And you get some extra special bonus content at the end of the episode, which is pretty exciting. So consider becoming a member. Just go to truestory.fm, click on our show, and click on the little button that says become a member. And if you're not into that, consider just liking, rating, thumbs up, and reviewing our podcast. Every little bit helps. And if you're still listening at this point, we appreciate you. So when you're out there in the world, please keep the Most Excellent 80s Movies podcast motto in mind. Be excellent to each other and party on,
Party on,
dude.
dudes.